The wind howled like a hungry beast as I walked down the darkened streets on Halloween night. The moon hid behind a shroud of thick clouds, casting an eerie glow over the deserted houses. Each step echoed in the silence, creating a sense of unease that crawled up my spine. I clutched my candy bag tightly, hoping that the treats would provide some comfort. The houses were decked out in haunting decorations, skeletons, cobwebs, and jack-o'-lanterns with sinister grins. But there was something off about them, something that sent a shiver down my spine. It was as if they were alive, watching me with malevolent eyes. I approached one house that stood out from the rest. Its windows were boarded up, and a flickering candle cast eerie shadows on the walls. I hesitated, my heart pounding in my chest, but the promise of candy urged me forward. I climbed the creaking steps and reached out to knock on the door. Before my knuckles could make contact, the door swung open with a groan. I jumped back, my breath catching in my throat. A figure stood in the doorway, cloaked in darkness. "Trick or treat," I managed to stammer, my voice barely audible. The figure didn't respond. It simply extended a bony hand, holding a bowl filled with candy. My fingers trembled as I reached into the bowl, feeling a coldness that seemed to seep into my bones. I quickly grabbed a handful of candy and backed away from the door, my heart racing. As I walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The shadows seemed to twist and contort, forming grotesque shapes that danced at the edge of my vision. I picked up my pace, eager to leave that unsettling house behind. But my footsteps faltered as I heard a soft, melodic tune carried by the wind. It was a haunting melody, the keen that burrowed into your mind and refused to let go. I followed the sound, my curiosity getting the better of me. The melody led me to a park, where a carousel stood in eerie silence. Its paint was faded, its horses frozen in mid-gallop. And yet, it spun, the music emanating from an unseen source. I approached cautiously, my heart in my throat. A figure sat atop one of the horses, its face obscured by a tattered hood. It seemed to sway with the rhythm of the music, its movements unnatural. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. The figure turned its head slowly towards me, and I caught a glimpse of its eyes, empty voids that seemed to suck in all the light around them. I stumbled back, my pulse pounding in my ears. The figure's lips twisted into a sinister smile, and it beckoned me closer with a skeletal hand. I should have run, should have fled that nightmarish scene. But something held me in place, a morbid curiosity that refused to let go. Before I knew it, I was climbing onto the carousel, taking a seat on a vacant horse beside the hooded figure. The world spun in a dizzying whirl as the carousel picked up speed. The haunting melody grew louder, drowning out all rational thought. I clung to the horse, my knuckles white with fear. And then, with a jolt, the carousel came to a sudden stop. I looked around, disoriented, and realized I was alone. The figure had vanished into thin air. Panic surged within me as I tried to make sense of what was happening. And then, a whisper echoed in the darkness, a single word that sent a chill down my spine. "Stay." The lights around the park flickered, casting long, distorted shadows. And then, they went out completely, plunging me into pitch-black darkness. I fumbled for my phone, desperate for any source of light. The phone's weak glow revealed a path leading deeper into the park. My heart raced as I followed it, the sense of dread growing with each step. And then, I stumbled upon something that froze the blood in my veins. A circle of candles, their flames dancing as if alive. In the center of the circle lay a jack-o'-lantern, its grin carved into a malevolent leer. The whispering grew louder, a cacophony of voices that seemed to come from all directions. I clutched my head, trying to block out the tormenting sounds. And then, with a blinding flash, the candles went out. The voices ceased and an oppressive silence settled over the park. I stood there, trembling, waiting for something, anything, to happen. But there was only darkness. As the minutes stretched into eternity, a cold realization crept over me. I was trapped, ensnared in a nightmare that had no escape. The darkness was all-encompassing, suffocating, and I knew that I was lost. And then, a single candle flickered to life in the distance, illuminating a figure standing before me. The hooded figure, its empty eyes fixed on mine. It raised a hand, and I felt an irresistible pull, my body moving against my will. And then, I was inside the jack-o'-lantern, trapped in a world of endless darkness, my screams unheard by the outside world. So if you find yourself walking the streets on Halloween night and you hear a haunting melody, remember my story. And whatever you do, don't follow the music, or you might just become part of the nightmare yourself.